in with Yoga for Migraine, and a lot of people who have been living with migraine perhaps used to practice yoga, but then with migraine, they felt like they couldn't do it anymore, that yoga was no longer accessible. And so today I'm here to prove to you that yoga is accessible for everybody, including people living with migraine like myself, but it does take the right kind of yoga, the right approach to make it accessible. So I'm going to actually literally demo today what you might see at a typical yoga studio or the gym, and how Yoga for Migraine makes what you see at the gym much more accessible, much more healing for those of us living with migraine. What I'm going to show you is a combination of approaches that I've used as someone who's practiced yoga since I was a kid, and that I've kind of come up with my own style, but I've also have been trained in pain care yoga, which is an approach of how to teach yoga to people living with chronic pain. And also I've been trained in restorative yoga styles, yin yoga, and yoga nidra, which I all incorporate into my Yoga for Migraine practice. If you're here, I'd love to see a shout out in the comments. You can write #live or #replay. And if you have questions at all about Yoga for Migraine, feel free to leave it in the comments. So here's what you might see at a typical yoga class. Sun salutation, something like this. Inhale up, exhale forward fold, inhale half lift, exhale jump to plank, and bring it down to the floor. Inhale cobra, exhale down dog. Inhale, jump it to the top. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, up. And exhale to the heart. So if that seems a little intimidating to you, you're not alone. But in Yoga for Migraine, we do not do fast movement like that in general. And we also don't do inversions that you saw, like down dog. Down dog is one of the poses that puts the most pressure on the head. And so for many people who are living with migraine, inversions don't feel good. They can precipitate more migraine pain. So we just don't do them in Yoga for Migraine. We don't do down dog, or we give you options to make the inversion less intense. So if you want to do a down dog and get some similar benefits, you can use a chair. You can press back, get a nice stretch for the backs of the legs, spread out through the fingers. If you did want to intensify it a little bit more, you can bring your hands to the seat. So another thing that we do in Yoga for Migraine is we use our props. We use lots of tools to make the poses work for us. So that might mean we do chair yoga sometimes, and we use lots of props. So let me give you an example. A pose that you might see in a traditional yoga class is eagle pose, and it looks something like this. You're going to be bending here, you're going to be crossing here, you're going to be tucking your toes. And for many people living with migraine, this might not be doable. One, maybe you've been out of exercise for a while. Most people with migraine do not get the recommended, daily amount of exercise because it's so hard to be consistent with your exercise when you're living with the unpredictability of migraine. So for something like eagle pose, I give you options. We can give you options standing, where you can give yourself a hug. You can bring one arm up like so. Maybe your hands touch. So you have a few different options. And then from here, maybe you're crossing, you can keep your toes down, lift the toes, and you can do all of that in a chair as well. So every step of the way in Yoga for Migraine, I offer you options. Even take something like child's pose. In a typical yoga class, you might have the teacher as a resting pose say, okay, everybody hit child's pose, and everybody might come on down. But that's not always physically accessible for even as a resting pose. So in Yoga for Migraine, I give you options. So if your knees are sensitive, you can bring a blanket down for your knees. And if you feel like bringing your hips to your heels isn't quite working, you can roll up a blanket and bring that roll behind you here. You can try that. And another option is to bring your bolster out in front of you and relax here. And that's where we get into our restorative yoga. So restorative yoga is a type of yoga that we include in all of my Yoga for Migraine practices. And it's using props, blankets, bolsters, blocks to help support you in a pose so that you can fully and deeply relax using the support of the props in an effortless way. So you hold the poses for longer, at least 3 minutes, but you're letting gravity and time get you deeper into the pose. It's very relaxing and effortless. Many of my Yoga for Migraine practices encourage that sense of relaxation, of rest, more than getting a workout. So we often will do poses to help relax the neck and shoulders because that's an area of tension for many people living with migraine. So to show you that, even for doing something as simple and common in a yoga class as sitting with your legs crossed, we'll give you options so that you can sit on a folded blanket to make it more comfortable. You can sit on a bolster and support your knees with blocks if you feel like your knees are way up here. And you can feel so much more stable using props to support you. So in Yoga for Migraine, we do mostly a lot of upper body stretching. That might mean you're touching your fingers down and relaxing your head to one side, letting the neck relax. And we move slowly. So you can take one hand to the side of the head and push your head back, always supporting your head and neck, and switch sides. And encouraging the breath to release tension. And push your head back. So bringing in some shoulder circles. We do most of our practice on our mat or chair, but we do have occasionally some options for standing poses as well. We like to take time, reverse your shoulder rolls, especially in the beginning, to breathe, to relax the neck and shoulders, and connect to what you're feeling. We do a lot of reminders of what's your breath feeling like, what is your body feeling like, do you want to intensify, do you want to take it down a notch, and then asking yourself questions in your yoga practice. Is my breath still steady, or is it starting to get more shallow and labored? You want your breath to stay calm, so know that you can always come out of something if you notice your breath getting more labored. We're asking ourselves sometimes also, hey, do I want to push my edge a little bit more? Do I want to challenge myself? Because it's so important for people living with chronic pain of any kind that we learn not to just feel like we're so fragile, that we are empowered to make choices about what we do physically, that we can sometimes work the edge, we can go a little bit further in a pose or back out, and that we have that freedom and that discernment to be able to judge what you need at the moment. So with that, we do a lot of relaxation in yoga for migraine because our pain levels vary so much living with migraine. So I have a few different offerings for what that looks like in practice. So the best resource, if you're like a do-it-yourself person and you want to just have some yoga practices to do on your own, I have my Yoga for Migraine First Aid Kit, which has 7 hours of yoga classes, and you can really choose what class to do based on your pain level. So if you're having a low pain day, there's going to be practices that might be more standing and involve a little more movement. Maybe we have cactus hugs in Warrior 1 for lower pain days, where you're still getting some strength and stretch through the upper body where we need it for people with migraine, but you're starting to incorporate more of the legs. Then for a lower pain day, or higher pain day, when you're not doing well, that's when you can choose a restorative practice and come into a pose like Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined cobbler's pose, where you get to lay down and rest in a pose like so, knowing that you can prop yourself up as much as you like, and you can just be here in silence and rest. So this restorative yoga is great for high pain days. And then finally, for times when you're having trouble sleeping or you are in the midst of a high flare, Yoga Nidra is one of my favorite practices. And that's where you literally can nestle up in bed. If you have an eye pillow, those are great. And it's a practice that you can do lying down. It's a guided meditation. It's called Yoga Nidra. It means yoga sleep. But it's really not much of a physically intense practice. It is the most subtle, where you're lying down and maybe you've got something to support your low back under your knees, and you are resting and you're listening to a guided meditation. And in this guided meditation, you'll be guided to do a body scan of noticing different parts of the body. Sometimes there's visualization. Sometimes there's connecting with opposite sensations in the body, like hot and cold. But the beauty of Yoga Nidra is that it helps you to rest deeply, which people with migraines struggle with getting adequate sleep every night. And it helps with this perspective of just welcoming everything into your experience and letting it just be. There's this acceptance of what is, of your experience, not running from anything, and just allowing it to be. And that is an incredibly important lesson for people living with pain, to be able to be with it without fearing it. And those are some of the practices that you might find in Yoga for Migraine. It's all about making you feel calm, relaxing tension in the neck and the upper body, where so many of us have tension even with our head pain. And it's doing it in a way that is accessible and sustainable, that you're not overdoing it, you're not, going through all these really fast poses that you might find in a normal yoga class, but it's all very slow, gentle, mindful, so that you can keep returning to it day after day. And with more practice and repetition, you're naturally going to be able to do more physically active asana practices. And that's how my programs are really structured, that you have options for each pain level that you might be experiencing, and that you can choose. You don't have to just sign up for some class and have no idea what you're getting into. That With many of my programs, you choose what you're dealing with, a high pain day or a low pain day level, and then you can even adjust from there, that you're making the practice your own. With my Beyond Migraine clients, we talk a lot about giving yourself permission to hold back a little bit, to not push yourself. So many of us with migraine are very, very driven and overachieving, and so we want to push ourselves physically and then often feel the repercussions of pushing too hard, and then the next day maybe we have a migraine attack and we can't do anything. And so this approach is all about baby steps of being able and willing to give yourself permission to do more one day, do less the one day and on another day, and listening to your body, developing that inner awareness, that discernment, that you know how much physical activity you're ready for. And yoga is not all about physical activity. It is really an internal practice. We're using physical yoga poses to really help us develop our mind and our mindset and calm ourselves. And all of this works together in a beautiful way to calm our nervous system. And really, with daily practice, my clients are cutting their migraine days by half or more and experiencing some tremendous transformation just within a couple months of daily practice. So I hope that helps you all see how yoga might be doable for you, that there's options with props. You can get into poses that feel nourishing, that you're not just trying to match what this athletic, 20-something at the gym is doing, that there are ways for you to practice yoga, and that there's so much that yoga can offer. So I'm going to check in. I saw one comment. Oh, thank you, Martha, for sharing. Martha is one of my Beyond Migraine students and has been living with migraine for a while, and also is a senior as well. And I want to just share, that she's been able to make the practice work for her and take on even practicing an hour a day. And we're really grateful that Martha has been joining our yoga program and starting to feel and see some big changes in her life with living with migraine, that the intensity is starting to decrease, and she's feeling more empowered to even avert migraine attacks that are in progress. She just shared that story. So I encourage you all to check out one of my offerings. I have something for every budget. I have the Yoga for Migraine sampler, which is $27, and it shows you 10-minute yoga for migraine practices. So that's a great way to start to get a taste of what I do, and do it in a short amount of time. You don't have to do a yoga practice for an hour to get benefit. The Yoga for Migraine First Aid Kit is an amazing resource that gives you 7 hours of Yoga for Migraine videos ranging from low pain day practices, high pain day practices, and sleep aid. That's my Yoga Nidra practice. And you have a whole year to work with all those 7 hours of videos. And many of my clients, just on their own, have been able to really make a dent in their migraine attacks just from those programs, and have helped them recover more quickly when they do have a migraine attack. And finally, my signature group coaching program is Beyond Migraine, and that is definitely the most effective, comprehensive, full support approach to bringing your migraine attacks down at least half, and developing a life that you love, that you feel more free, and you're feeling healthy again. And that program is in the mid-thousands and requires a lot more support and investment from me and from my clients, but absolutely creates incredible results, life-changing results for people who do participate. So if any of those are of interest, I left some links in the description, but always feel free to DM me with any questions or even how to make a pose more accessible. There's always a way to make the yoga pose work for you. You don't need to fit the yoga pose needs to fit you. So thank you all, and I will see you next week. Thank you.